Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Jake. This is Press to Play Rewind, where we take a look at a few of the news stories that I found the most interesting throughout the last week. On this episode, we're going to be talking about film, and I'm very pleasantly joined by Forrest again. Forrest, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. It's always a pleasure having you on. Thanks for coming back for this episode. And we've got a new voice to this channel. We've got Ian here. Ian, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great.
Good. Well, we're excited to have you here. I've always liked to have as many voices on this, on these kind of discussions as possible. You know, different points of view and everything. It makes it more interesting. So, we obviously there's tons of news that shows up every week for film, but I just picked out a couple that I found the most, that caught my eye the most and that I'm most excited about or curious about. So let's just jump right into it. The first story we've got here is that a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film is coming from Seth Rogen and Nickelodeon. Now, first of all, that's super weird to me because I just wouldn't ever put Seth Rogen and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles together. But let's kind of talk about it here. So, from the Wrap, Seth Rogen's production company, Point Grey Pictures, is partnering with Nickelodeon for a CG animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot movie. And it's going to be written by the guy, Brendan O'Brien, who's the guy who wrote the Neighbors sequel, Neighbors Sorority Rising, which was not my jam in any capacity, but I think it's so bizarre to get Seth Rogen and the guy who wrote Neighbors, this R-rated comedy, to come in and work with Nickelodeon and do a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot movie. Forrest, I'll pass it to you. What are your initial impressions on this?
So I've never really been a fan of Seth Rogen stuff. Maybe a few things here and there. I guess Sausage Party I thought was kind of funny. But him as a person, not super into him. So I don't know if I have high hopes for this just because I don't know, reboots are kind of tiring at this point. But Turtles is one of those things that just kind of transcends time. They're always making new stuff for it. I know the TV shows have been pretty good. So since it's not necessarily animated, it's CG animated. We know how the Michael Bay ones went. I never watched those, but so we'll see how that goes. I'm not super excited. I guess once we see a trailer, I guess I can pass a final judgment on that.
Yeah, and a trailer, I mean, it's a long time. This is very, very, very early, but it is very interesting that they got these pieces in place. And I agree. I've never been a big Seth Rogen fan, and I did watch both Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. Wasn't a huge fan of either of them. They had a couple redeeming qualities here and there, but overall, I think a reboot is fine. But this is just, it's a very, I can't really wrap my brain about it and figure out how it's gonna go. Ian, what are your thoughts on this? Can you shed any sort of insight onto this? Because I just think it's weird.
Yeah, it is a little weird. I can bet that it's going to be better than the Michael Bay movies because I really can't stand Michael Bay as a director. But I feel like with Seth Rogen, he's really going to nail Michelangelo because that's just kind of how Seth Rogen is, and it's just the perfect character for him to.
I can see that.
Take over. But yeah, it's still super early. We'll see what the trailer looks like when it comes out.
I want to throw something else.
Yeah, go ahead
too, because he's producing it too, right? He's not actually directing it, so I don't know who the director would be or if he's going to kind of assume that role.
I think they may have announced a director. Let me see if I can find
I'm not sure. I just I know his studio is fairly new, and honestly I watched a trailer for that American Pickle thing, whatever, and just it looks like he's kind of evolving his humor to be a little more serious and humorous at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
A lot of people do, and that show looked good. So old Seth Rogen I can't stand, so it depends on kind of how he shapes up with producing and doing whatever with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like Jeff Rowe, who was involved in the animated series, I think is it Cartoon Network or Disney, the Gravity Falls? I haven't actually watched it. Have either of you checked that out?
Oh, I love Gravity Falls.
I've seen some of it. It's great.
Yeah, it's one of the few Disney cartoons that they can get right.
Well, that makes it a little bit more promising because, I mean, producers, you can do very, very little and have your name as a producer credit. So maybe Seth Rogen isn't going to be all that involved. And, if the director who's already been working on an animated series, that you think is that good, maybe that adds a little bit of promise to this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, so overall, I'm excited to see more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I can't get enough of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I love them. Raphael's the best.
Yeah, I agree.
The number one favorite. People look at me funny. They're like, "What about Michelangelo and Donatello and Leonardo?" I'm like, "What about Raphael?" So, yeah, overall, I think it's really interesting, and I'm pretty excited to see how it turns out. But yeah, I don't know. The Turtles have been rebooted through film and animation so many times now, and each iteration is a little bit different. So it'll be really interesting. So that's what our thoughts were on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story. What do you guys think about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being rebooted with Nickelodeon and Seth Rogen, the guy behind Gravity Falls, written by the guy who wrote Neighbors? Let me know in the comments below. We're going to move right on into our next story, which I am personally way more excited about. Like, way more excited about. Margot Robbie is set to star in a Pirates of the Caribbean spin-off film. Now, we already know that Disney already announced that they are going to be developing a sort of rebooted series, not necessarily a reboot where nothing else happened, but sort of a new direction for the series, new characters. We're moving away from Jack and the characters we already know, starring Karen Gillan, which I was already really excited about. But this is a separate thing. It's going to be her own sort of standalone film within this Pirates of the Caribbean universe. But I am extremely excited for this. Margot Robbie is one of my favorite actresses working today. I think she's incredible, and I've loved everything I've seen her in thus far. And I like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, so I couldn't be more thrilled. Ian, what are your thoughts on Pirates of the Caribbean in general? Margot Robbie joining this thing. What do you think?
I'm sad to see that they're moving away from Jack Sparrow, because I thought that was just like a great character, and Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow was great. Yeah, I like Margot Robbie as well. I just can't wait to see what it's going to be like. I'll miss, Jack, but we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I can picture Margot Robbie nailing a really, really cool pirate. Like, I can see that in my head working really, really well. Forrest, how about you? I mean, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, so I only saw the first 3 Pirates. I didn't see...
Really?
What are the Fountain of Youth? The one with Penelope Cruz in it? Was the one after that?
Yes.
Okay.
Air quotes last one.
Okay. I never saw those 2, just because, I don't know, it seemed like they were going a different direction, and I was like, I don't know, I just didn't have much interest in. But it sounds like they're trying to expand the universe, which is a great idea, because they have a lot of stories I'm sure they can tell about pirates in the era and the locations. I do love Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow. So, maybe if he's involved a little bit, it would be super cool. But if they're going different directions with different people, like I didn't know Karen Gillan was going to be in her own movie there about that. That's super cool. I love her.
Yeah, me too.
Margot's great. That'll be cool to see more, badass pirate chicks running the seas out there. Again, I'm just worried about, I guess, don't reboot the whole thing. I hate when they just take a franchise that's been established and go, okay, that was great. Forget everything that happened. We're going to start new, because it worked so well for Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Side note, I want to see Goosebusters.
Yeah.
Really bad. So call up Michael Bay. Let's get Goosebusters.
Take those honkers down. Yeah, no. So, reboots in that sense just kind of anger longtime fans. But if you can just say, hey, it's in the same universe, there may be or may not be cameos or whatever, but just run and make a franchise with it, I'm all for that.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I'm most of the time I'm kind of okay with reboots. I think if there's enough time separated, you can reboot it, and it's not going to change the movies that are there. It's a new movie, it's a new direction, and if it works, that's awesome. With the case of Ghostbusters, I don't think it worked at all, and that's why all of a sudden they're going back and doing a new Ghostbusters that's actually a sequel to Ghostbusters 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's going to be sweet.
So I think if you do a reboot, it can work. But from what I understand, at least with this Karen Gillan series, it's more of a continuation, extension, sort of alternate part of the world story. While, maybe it takes place during the same movies and just in a different location. Maybe it takes place after, before. I don't know. But I think I'm really, really excited overall to see the direction they're taking Pirates. I love Jack Sparrow. I love Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow. But, I mean, I guess I get it. there's been a lot of drama, and I won't get into, how I feel about the drama. That you can all make your own decisions about that. But Disney is probably looking at that and being like, okay, well, how do we feel about, do we want to add a controversy to our movie right off the bat, right?
Sure.
Which sucks, but at the same time, I believe the Pirates movies have just been kind of taking a steady decline, release after release, in the box office, which is pretty typical, but I get where they're like, we should...
I didn't go see them.
Yeah, it's all on you. You ruined Jack Sparrow. So I get it, and I mean, maybe someday Jack will be back, but I like the fresh new take that we're going to be getting. And one more thing I want to throw in here is, did either of you see Birds of Prey?
No. No.
Oops, sorry. I haven't seen it. I know you love it.
I
just
fucking love that movie. It is. I'm still going back and forth whether or not Aquaman or Birds of Prey are my favorites in the entire DCEU, but I really, really enjoyed it. And this Margot Robbie one is being written by the woman who wrote Birds of Prey, Christina Hodson. So I really enjoyed the writing in that. It is kind of a divisive film. People kind of either love it or hate it, I've noticed. So depending on who you talk to, that might elicit a different reaction. But seeing that she's on board to write this with Margot Robbie starring, I'm 100% in. Do you guys have any other thoughts on, this whole Pirates sort of reboot universe that's going on?
I just think a cameo, just like the smallest of cameos, would just be fantastic with Jack in these movies. You just have him running in the background or just drinking in the background, and I'd be happy.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if like, say this Margot Robbie one takes place at the same time as one of the other ones, and she's just sailing by, and you do see Jack like running in the background, I think that would be awesome with like the military chasing him or something.
Yeah, or the was it at World's End with the cannibals?
Yeah.
Yeah,
down the beach.
Yeah, you just see that in the background. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It could be.
It's just like, what the heck's going on over there?
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, and that my final thoughts on that. That would keep it from being a reboot. A reboot is essentially just, hey, ignore everything that's happened up until this point. Just pretend it didn't happen. So if you keep it in universe and say, yes, this stuff happened, this happened along with it, or kind of separate from it, then that's how you keep a universe alive. And I like that.
That's definitely the way I'm hoping they take this whole thing as well. Overall, I'm really excited about it. Sounds like you guys are pretty on board. What do you guys think about Margot Robbie starring, Christina Hodson writing in this? What do you think about the whole new Pirates sort of universe in general? Let us know all of that, like everything you think about that in the comments below. Now I get to the part where I'm really excited to talk about this, because there is a lot of potential here, but it's also very uncertain. There is a chance that Michael Keaton, who starred way, way back when in Tim Burton's Batman movies, will be reprising his role as Bruce Wayne / Batman in the DCEU. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, so I'm just going to go right into this Hollywood Reporter article, who said Michael Keaton, who famously starred as the Cape Crusader in the Tim Burton directed Batman films, is in talks to reprise the character for Warner Brothers' DC movie The Flash. Pause there. I'm not a huge fan of Ezra Miller's Flash, and I'm not a huge fan of Ezra Miller in general. I didn't like him in Justice League, the recent things that have been going on. Overall, I did not care about The Flash. And plus, behind the scenes on that movie has been riddled with drama since the start of it. I think it has 4 different release dates it's been pushed to now or something like that. It's crazy. They've gone through writers and directors like crazy. Ezra Miller ended up writing a script for it at one point. It's just, it seems like it's a mess. But I also haven't liked the DCEU at all up until Walter Hamada kind of took over as that sort of Kevin Feige role, overseeing all of it. Then we got Aquaman. Then we got, Shazam. Then we got Joker, which obviously isn't in the DCEU, but that was an incredible movie, right?
Potentially.
We got Birds of Prey, which I really loved. We've got this new Robert Pattinson Batman movie that looks really, really promising. So with him at the helm and hearing this news, I've got a little bit more promise than, I would have after just watching Justice League. But what are your thoughts on just Michael Keaton's chance of being in a Flash movie of all things? Forrest, what do you think about that?
I think it's interesting. I know that they already have a Batman for the DCEU, but it sounds like, they're changing it. I don't know if that's connected. So if he's reprising his role of Batman, they're going to have to kind of explain that. But I think it's super exciting. I think he did a great job with Bruce Wayne back in, it was like 89 or whatever. That kind of like kicked off the whole, let's make some really cool superhero films thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that he would be in The Flash to start off with. You know, maybe he's starring in a separate role. Maybe he is starring as Bruce Wayne. He did a great job, by the way, as Vulture.
Oh, yeah,
Just
he did.
Fantastic. And what I'm hoping is that he's an older Bruce Wayne, and he's passing the buck off to, I don't know, Terry McGinnis. So we get some Batman Beyond.
A lot of that going around.
That's all I want at this point. That was such a great series. So let's go that direction, hopefully.
That would be very, very interesting. I never really watched a lot of Batman Beyond. I've always been kind of fascinated and wanted to, but I just never have for whatever reason. So I think that would be really interesting to see. I think the Flash being his entry point here is because I believe they're going to do Flashpoint in that movie, which, you know, it's all alternate realities, alternate universes, and maybe that's how he gets pulled into here. So I think it could be kind of interesting. It looks like there's a little bit more information here as well. Keaton wouldn't just return for Flash, but possibly several other DC film projects. The Hollywood Reporter has sources that are telling him that he's being envisioned as a sort of, you know, Nick Fury type character, where he's going to show up as a mentor or a guide that kind of comes into different movies and kind of has his hand on everything. And Batgirl is one of the projects in development that he could be a part of. So that makes it really more interesting to me too, because I can't imagine him running around being this universe's Batman, like fighting toe-to-toe with people all the time. That I can't see happening. So I think that sort of advisory role would be really interesting. Ian, what are your thoughts on Michael Keaton and everything you've heard so far?
Yeah, I really think they're probably going to do, like you said, Flashpoint, or I think this one's saying Crisis on Infinite Earths. Kind of like a Nick Fury of the DC. I agree with that. I would love to see Batman Beyond stuff, which everybody loves, but it doesn't really get a lot of love from Hollywood.
I mean, maybe that's a possibility. What if they do want to do a Batman Beyond movie, and they use Flashpoint, and they, you know, when Michael Keaton shows up on screen, right? Let me rewind a little bit. This is still not a done deal. This is a huge if. They're just starting talks. But if it all comes true, what if we're watching Flashpoint and all of a sudden, you know, we see Bruce Wayne's, like Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne talking to Terry McGinnis. Terry McGinnis is already Batman in that universe, and he gets just pulled into the current DC universe, and then that Batman Beyond is sort of its own thing taking place after that moment. How would you guys feel about that?
100%. I think that would be a good boost to the DCEU, because as you said, it started off rough. It got better with Aquaman and Shazam, but I think it would be a huge boost to that whole universe.
They do have a lot of potential to screw it up, though, if they do.
Oh, yes, they do.
High risk, high reward.
Yeah. The DCEU has been on a good roll lately. You know, they've had a number of films in a row that I really like, so I trust them now. But man, I like I said, I didn't like Ezra Miller's Flash in Justice League at all.
Yeah.
In the slightest. Every time he was on screen, I was not enjoying the film. Having a whole movie about him might just not work for me in general. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully in the coming days, weeks, months, we'll find out if he's actually going to sign on to do this. And if he does, that's when we can start getting really excited.
If you haven't seen much of Batman Beyond, Jake, I would really recommend watching it, because it's so good. You've got old, cynical Batman who just hates life now. You've got Mark Hamill as Joker, an old Joker, and it's just great. Yeah. And all the new villains are great, and the environment's great.
I'll definitely have to check it out at some point. I've always been curious. You know, Batman is my number 2 favorite superhero of all time. So seeing, you know, what happens to him in the future, eventually I'll get around to it. Maybe once they announce a Batman Beyond movie someday, I'll go back and watch the series beforehand. Overall, I'm pretty excited about the possibility of it, and all of the sort of extrapolations we can make of what that role could look like in the DCEU, and have that sort of connecting tissue again. I think that'd be really, really interesting.
I'm excited to see what's to come of this.
Yeah, for sure. I think it could be really, really interesting, and I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. What are you guys' thoughts on Michael Keaton possibly reprising his role as the Batman? Let us know in the comments below. And that's all the topics we had to discuss in film today. What do you guys think about all of it? You know, we've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we got Margot Robbie and Karen Gillan and Pirates, we got Michael Keaton. This week has been really crazy for weird, bizarre movie news I wasn't expecting. Anyway, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Forrest, Ian, I want to thank you both for being here. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up by hitting that like button. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to be the first to know when I upload a new video. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Press to Play OK. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.
See ya.